Our coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series Carfax 250 at Michigan being brought to you by Carfax. Cars are rolling. Take a look at our starting grid. Reigning series champion Carl Edwards picked up his third pole of the year and fifth of the year for Ford. He will lead the field, and he is flanked by 23-year-old Cale Gale, his career best starting position driving for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. Now you watch to see where your favorite driver is starting. Let's visit with our in-race reporter, the driver of the U.S. Navy Chevrolet, Brad Keselowski, who starts back in 22nd today.
Hey, Brad, Dale Jarrett with ESPN. You have a copy?
10-4.
Hey, Brad, growing up in Michigan, just how special would a win be here today in front of your family and friends?
Man, it'd be awesome. I think I've got a great U.S. Navy Chevrolet here. I'm really excited about it. Proud of everyone on my team here. We've had a great season so far, and that would really be a good way to cap it off.
All right, Brad, our second question comes from one of your fans. Nick in Fort Myers, Florida, would like to know, how has your focus and approach changed now that you are only 128 points behind first place?
Well, I mean, our focus hasn't changed. It's for Clint's that's going to have to change because we're racing for wins now, and he can't play defense anymore. He's going to have to play offense. So, you know, we're focused on the same thing every week, and that's winning races and putting the U.S. Navy Chevrolet in victory lane for our fans and for my teammates.
Thanks, Brad. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Calling the shots today for Brad will be veteran crew chief Tony Uri Sr. We know him as Pops. Let's visit with Pops.
Hey, Tony Sr., it's Andy Peter in the booth. You got us?
4, I got you.
Hey, Tony, this race is starting kind of late in the afternoon. We got a lot of cloud cover. What do you expect the racetrack to do, and how do you expect it to change today?
Well, hopefully it has changed since yesterday. We were a little free yesterday, and I think that's what we got to be. The track always gets tight, real pushy toward the end. So we have our car real free, and hopefully the racetrack's going to come into us today.
Hey, Pops, the last race we had up here, who figured that fuel mileage anyway? We saw that car coasting across the line.
Well, we didn't get it right, but we thought we were going to make it. But we did make it, but we coasted a long way. We just barely, I think we got more standing ovation than the rest of the guys did. So, you know, we rolled across the line there about 2 miles an hour or so. So hopefully we'll have enough gas to make it to today. And I hear it's your birthday today, so happy birthday. Turned a big 5-0 today, huh?
Yeah, that's enough of that. We've already done that. Thanks anyway, Pop. Have a good race, bud.
Thank you. You're catching me.
Tony Uri Sr., who helped Dale Earnhardt Sr. to a championship, and Dale Jr. win 2 titles, trying to get his driver to a championship here in 2008. We'll be taking you inside the battle throughout the afternoon with 8 different high-definition onboard cameras throughout the field. And we'll also be taking you across the wall with a high-definition camera and microphone being worn by the front tire carrier for Bobby Hamilton Jr., John Buslow, out of Denton, Texas. John will be giving us up-close shots of how they come across the wall and get those tires to the tire changers. Let's update some of the stories we'll be following today. First in the pits, here is Mike Massaro.
Well, thanks, Doc. You know, in the year and some months since Jerry Baxter began working with David Ruderman, he says he's seen a dramatic change in his driver. He says a year ago, Ruderman was just happy to be here. Now, though, he's not satisfied unless he's running with the leaders. Unfortunately, though, it's been a long time since that happened. In his last 4 races, Ruderman's best finish has been 15th. It's the longest stretch he's gone all season without a top 10. I did speak with David just before he climbed in the race car, and he says he's looking for a breakout race today, and this is the best car he's ever had in Michigan. Jamie?
Well, Mike, there's a lot of firsts today for young rookie Joey Logano. For the first time, he's behind the wheel of the 18 car, not the 20 like normal. Of course, we saw Tony Stewart is in that car today, but he has a great chance of taking home victory today. This team is part-time. They've gone to victory lane 5 times, 4 times with Kyle Busch, once with Denny Hamlin. And remember, in 8 starts for Joey Logano, he already has 1 win. So he's feeling good despite the fact that he has a new crew chief, a different team, and it's the first time he's racing on a 2-mile oval. Dave?
Well, Jamie, Jamie, the 6-team crew has been idle in the Nationwide Series 13 times this year. So could that hurt Greg Biffle's chances of a win here today? Well, not according to crew chief Eddie Pardue. He tells me this team practices just like the full-time teams, and they help out their Roush Fenway race mates in the Craftsman Truck Series, including last week when a few of them went over and helped out the truck guys on Eric Darnell's truck. He finished second at Nashville. Shannon?
Well, Dave, another Roush Fenway driver that you want to keep your eye on is David Reagan. While all eyes will certainly be on teammate and pole sitter Carl Edwards as he leads the field to green, David Reagan in the last 10 races, his worst finish has been 13th. And David Reagan says this team right now is riding the momentum from a 9th place finish last week at Watkins Glen. So certainly keep your eye on that car. Doc?
We'll watch that one another, Shannon. Our race analysis, 250 miles, 125 laps on a 2-mile D-shaped oval. There's the pit road speed fuel window, 40 to 45 laps, and the fuel very, very important here. There are the different degrees of banking in the turns. Guys, we know who the favorites are. What about sleepers today?
I'm picking Brian Vickers, and yeah, I know he qualified 3rd, so that doesn't make him much of a sleeper, but he's never won here, and I expect him to do well, and it's time for him to break out and win a race.
Yeah, Andy, well, my sleeper, Jamie just let out the bag there. I'm going with Joey Logano, who maybe wasn't a sleeper before that. His first time competing here, though. It'll be interesting to watch this young man as he progresses today, his first time at Michigan.
Joey Logano, just 18 years of age, making his 9th career start, and as you said, first time ever on a track this big. Hey, last time he was on a 1.5 mile at Kentucky, he won the race. Carl Edwards leads him down, reigning series champion, the youngster Cale Gale. On the outside of him, it is Ford, Chevy, and Toyota, the top 3, as we have the green flag waving at Michigan.
Now, Carl Edwards got a great jump there. It looked like Cale Gale spun the tires. You can see the back end of his car wiggled just a little bit, so the outside line wasn't ready to go.
Well, Carl Edwards' tires are ready to go. He got a good jump right there.
Oh, trouble already.
70 cars spinning.
Behind you, a wreck behind you. Green is still out. Just keep coming, young.
And Stephen Wallace comes down across and has hard contact with the concrete head-on. Mark Green in the 70 car. That Mark has gotten his car headed in the right direction after spinning backwards. Part of a roof flap still showing. Doesn't look like he hit anything, but not so fortunate for that guy, Steve Wallace.
Steve's got a busted radiator also. Looks like Mike Bliss got the back of Mark Green.
And it's hard to see back there with Steven, but I would guess he probably checked up and maybe got hit from behind. And he actually got the worst end of the deal and was just trying to slow down to miss it.
Yeah, it looked like he might get it stopped, and then he just catches a safer barrier on the inside.
On board Mike Bliss. Now watch the 70 car right in front of him as they come off of turn 2.
Yeah.
You're all clear, bud. You're all clear. You okay?
Stephen Wallace, there's the contact from behind. He gets into the side of the 25 car of Bobby Hamilton Jr. Stephen Wallace trying to get it stopped. Can't stop the momentum until he plows the wall head on off of turn 2. Motorsports action to come your way over the weekend. NHRA Toyo Tires Nationals qualifying coming up tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern time from Reading, Pennsylvania. NASCAR Now kicks off our coverage tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And then NASCAR Sprint Cup action at Michigan, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestick, Brad Daugherty, Rusty Wallace will have the call, and we will get our flag-to-flag coverage following tomorrow afternoon on ESPN. Then NHRA Toyo Tires Nationals Finals tomorrow at 10 Eastern time. And, of course, NASCAR Now to wrap it all up on ESPN2 Sunday at 1 a.m. Eastern time. We told you the points lead was shrinking and the points battle was close. With 10 races to go, take a look. Only 128 points separate first and second. But, folks, look at the difference between this year and last year. This year, first to 10th, 672 points separate first to 10th. And that's closer than first to second was at this time a year ago. So a lot of things can change down the stretch here in these final 10 events. There's Carl Edwards, who was the points leader and had that dominant points lead a year ago this time, won the championship. He is chasing this man, Clint Bowyer. As we told you, there may be some mad blood brewing there, as Edwards is the leader, and the 2-car Clint Bowyer being shown now up 2 spots in the 12th position. Let's check in where Mike, I think, is caught up with Stephen Wallace.
And obviously dejected Stephen Wallace looking over the damage on the race car. What happened?
I don't know, man. I'm just absolutely disgusted. You know, I think Jimmy John's Chevrolet Monte Carlo was I think pretty good in practice. You know, we had a bad qualifying run. We started back in the back. We all went flying down turn one. I guess the guys got tight or loose and bounced off the wall, and they came across in front of me. The 25 got real tight. I checked up and I looked up ahead of me, and there were a bunch of cars spinning out on the very first lap, very first corner. It's just I'm just disgusted. It just sucks, you know. It's first lap.
Not much more you can say, Doc, but Mark Green did come over the radio afterwards and said he was getting real tight off and thought maybe he had a right front tire going down. They're taking a look right now.
Difficult situation trying to get the front of that car repaired to get him back out for valuable points. Got a lot of work to do. Some of the cars coming down pit road. Meanwhile, as they work on their car, 28 Kenny Wallace is in, 25 Bobby Hamilton Jr., Mike Bliss in the one car. Here's Mike coming down. They will check the tires on some of these guys that jam the brake zone over there to try to get woed up and not be a part of that melee. Also the 4 car in the pits here just a moment ago. That's Derek Cope.
Yeah, we heard Stephen Wallace talking about the cars already pushing off of that corner, and this is a racetrack because of being 2 miles long that you're already carrying a lot of speed off of that second corner. So with the cars bunched up, it's easy to lose the front end right there. One guy has to check up somewhere there, and then it just a kind of accordion effect back through the pack, and that's what happened with Stephen, unfortunately.
And Andy, this team where Stephen and Wallace, they were really pointing toward this race because Stephen came here and really made a name for himself by winning an ARCA race here a few years ago in dominant fashion, did a great job, and they said, we may get our first NASCAR Nationwide Series win there this weekend. We got a good car. Didn't qualify what we wanted to, but got a really good car for the race. And here at lap 1, they end up with this kind of damage.
Yeah, this is too bad. Their teammate, David Strimmy, he's in the top 5 right now. And I know they had a good setup for this race. They were just trying to get it going. You can't, you know, these things here you can't avoid sometimes, but boy, they're hard to take.
We'll update repairs going on there. Let's update what's going on with our points leader, the 2 car. Clint Boyer began the race in 14th position. Under caution right now, being shown in 12th spot. Let's listen into his radio.
I mean, you may as well say there's no reason to waste it. We're not even close to changing our game plan, though. Just say what you can.
Yeah, I plan on putting it first and wrapping it here for about 10 laps. That's 2 for you there, Dylan. A little rusty.
These guys just having a little bit of fun. Crew chief's trying to tell him to maybe save a little fuel, and he's just being kind of a, you know, sarcastic, saying, hey, I'm just going to put it in first gear and rev it up and see how much gas I can use.
Well, they're nice and loose, even though they've lost a lot of their points lead. But in talking with Clint Boyer, he knows that he just has to go out and do the same things that got him the points lead. And it's been unfortunate circumstances that's cost him part of that lead.
He's in a pressure cooker in both this series and Sprint Cup. He's just outside the chase cutoff in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, and he finds himself the chasee now as the points leader and winding down in the Nationwide Series. DJ, you run both series before. You understand what he's feeling right now. You've been in that same situation. You know, how do you take the stress away?
Well, you don't. It's going to be there, and anybody that tells you that there's not is not being totally honest with you. But that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to be a big-time race driver. You got your opportunity in 2 series, and not a lot of people can say that they've had themselves in that position. So I really think, as much as anything, he's probably relishing this opportunity to show just how well he does handle this. You know, the people that ultimately succeed, I've always said that they're the ones that handle the pressure the best, and he'll show us that he can do that.
One of those careful what you ask for. You wanted to make it to the big time, and he has done that. But right now he is under assault from the Navy. U.S. Navy Chevrolet, Brad Keselowski, and over the last 12 races, Andy, those numbers speak for themselves.
Wow, that does show it right there, how this 88 team has outperformed the 2 car over the last 12 races. And that's why you know that. I mean, when you see Brad Keselowski, he's got a lot of confidence that he can still compete for this thing.
Yeah, and he's done a great job, but we saw Clint Boyer's average finish was 9.1, which isn't too shabby in itself. So they've actually done their job. It's just the 88 team and Brad Keselowski have done theirs just a little bit better over that period of time.
More on Brad. Let's check in with Dave.
Yeah, and Pops Uri, the crew chief, who is just a couple years older than Andy Petrie, as we noted earlier. Sorry, Andy. He will tell you that Brad is not yet feeling the pressure of the championship, but he will eventually. He has to, as they get closer and closer, just 128 markers back now of the lead. And when he does, that will be Brad's true test. When he has that pressure, because he will feel it, how is he going to handle it? Pops thinks he can get through it, but he doesn't know yet because they've never been there.
Well, that pressure might be getting to Pops, too. You know, he's only 27. He sure looks older than that, though.
Yeah, he needs better makeup. Hey, remember the call that Pops Uri made at Watkins Glen last week early in the race? He said, you know, we're driving for a championship. We got to come down and put fuel in the car. We cannot take those kind of gambles when you're trying to win a title, and it paid off when they got a top 10 finish.
That's one of the things that Brad has going for him here. He's got experience sitting up there that he can count on, and that's the key thing here.
And I'm sure after that race that Brad went to him and said, thank you for making that call, because you pretty much saved our day right there, making sure that we didn't have any problems.
Yeah, he finished 6th and thus moved in the 2nd spot in the point standings. Getting set for the green to go back out here. 6 laps are in the books. Carl Edwards, our pole sitter, has led all 6 so far. We've only had 1 under green as we wave it again at the field as they come by Edwards. And watch for Brian Vickers to get really aggressive here early on in his Toyota.
Another Toyota getting pretty aggressive. Tony Stewart on that restart. Comes to the outside of David Stremme. He gets him cleared there in the middle of 1 and 2.
These guys love about this racetrack is you don't have to follow the guy in front of you. We see him single file. We see Greg Biffle dive down to the bottom here. Joey Logano going to the high side. David Stremme trying to block that move. So just a lot of things that you can do as a driver to make your car better and to have fun and make passes.
So I love about this racetrack. You can go anywhere. Wherever your car feels good, you can take it there.
Clint Boyer, part of that big pack there. There is the 5 car, Mark Martin. Clint Boyer down on the inside. The 27 is David Gilliland, by the way, this week. Gilliland driving the car this week only.
Here we go, 3 wide.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, got a little contact down the backstretch.
3 wide, 6 behind you.
And Clint Boyer, the points leader, trying to get away from that mess. He's hugging the bottom of the racetrack. Now Mark Martin still holds the spot, and Gilliland slides back.
You said get away from him. I think he calls that mess. He made it 3 wide.
Yeah, and sometimes you just can't get away. You think that shortest way around, you're getting yourself out there, and you might get by these guys, but you just don't have that momentum that they can gather by being up on top and get back to the gas sooner. So it's a pressure cooker situation that you put yourself in, but it's a lot of fun on top of that.
This is 9th through 16th. These cars you're looking at right here as you go back up front and watch the leaders. 3rd position, Andy, you made the call, the 20 car of Tony Stewart making his final start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series in a Joe Gibbs Toyota. And how badly does he want to win this?
He wants to make this one count for sure. And, you know, every time he's been in this car, it seems like he's been unbeatable. He looks pretty good right here.
A big question was coming here with these Toyotas who are running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now. How much was this spacer change going to affect them? And we heard Rusty talk about, Andy, that they felt like they had a lot of that back.
Well, that spacer, when they put it on, it definitely affected the car. It killed about 16 horsepower. The key thing here is these guys went to work, and they've got most of it, if not all of it, back. You see, they're very competitive early on. Mike?
Well, Andy, DJ, you guys are talking about how these guys are curious as to find out how much the tapered spacer and the modification to the rule will play out here in Michigan. Well, I spoke with David Ruderman just before he climbed in the race car, and he said, you know, when I'm going through the corners, I feel real good about this race car. In fact, it's the best race car I've had in between turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. But on the straightaways, he doesn't feel like he has much for anybody. But it certainly doesn't look to be the case right now, does it?
It doesn't look like it. These guys are still very competitive, and I'm sure that, you know, these guys would love to have that bigger spacer back on the car, but they're making the most of it right here. Their cars are really handling well.
Yeah. Don't know how much they would let us know that they hadn't got it back either. That, you know, they're playing the game too, so we can't.
Y'all do that?
Well, just occasionally, especially up here in Michigan. You know, they're not only. As we see Tony Stewart make a move for that 3rd spot. That 20 car, I think, all the year has won a lot of these races because they handle better than a lot of the other cars.
You just never see that car bobble. You don't see it move around. It just seems so rock solid every lap, no matter who's driving it.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Well, you guys are talking about how good that car looks and how well it's handling. Yesterday in practice, Tony Stewart said the car was nervous. He said it turned too well as well, so they made a couple adjustments just to tighten him up a bit for the race setup, and obviously things are working right now. This team wants to get Tony Stewart into victory lane for his last ride in the JGR number 20 in Nationwide.
Jamie, Dave Rogers told me they took this car to the wind tunnel. They wanted the best car they had for Tony's last ride. He said it is the fastest car we have in the wind tunnel. That's the good news. The bad news is that car hasn't finished a race this year. It's the one that Kyle Busch had the broken shock at Atlanta and spun while leading at Nashville, Tennessee.
It's a battle for 12th. David Reagan, Jason Leffler.
We talked about the first three guys in the points, but David Reagan's held himself in that top 5 in that 5th position in the points for most of the year and has done really an outstanding job as we see him battle. Just can't get that run off the corner. Jason Leffler pulls back in front of him.
6th position. We told you it was the best start in this young man's career, talking about Cale Gale in the 33 car. Running on a 2-mile oval with the guy that's been awfully good here over the years, a 2-time Cup winner, Greg Biffle.
Greg Biffle can get the most out of a race car at this racetrack.
He loves coming here. This is just his type of track. You're in the gas a lot, and that's what Greg Biffle likes to do, is be in the gas as much as he possibly can and just see how much he can hang that race car out.
Yeah, Doc, I spent some time yesterday with Cale Gale, and we were talking about his opportunity here. This young man, I've watched him throughout the past several weeks, whether Kevin's driving the race car or whoever. He is always around this race car working on it. He said he's going to be in it 3 more times. He is so excited to be in this car today. And I talked to Kevin last night about Cale. He said he just needs to get him some more consistent seat time, and he thinks he has a superstar in Cale Gale, and I agree.
Brad, you know, when you talk about momentum and how important it is when you were playing in the NBA or when Rusty and DJ were driving to be able to get that good finish. That's what happened to Cale Gale last time out. He finished 6th at ORP after qualifying 3rd, and Kevin Harvick knows he's got a talented young driver in that car. How special would it be for him and Delana to have that car go to victory lane here today? In the early laps, 16 of 125 laps are complete at Michigan International Speedway. We have had 1 leader and 1 leader only. Carl Edwards set on the pole and has led all 16 laps so far. Vickers, Stewart, Rudeman, and Joey Logano in the top 5.
There is the scene at the head of the field in the Carfax 250 at Michigan International Speedway. Carl Edwards leading as he has the whole race long. Brian Vickers second in the 32 car, the Black Machine, and Tony Stewart starting to creep into the picture as we have completed 20 of the scheduled 125 laps. We talked a lot about pit stop opportunities being few. What are we looking at for these first stops?
What you're looking at right now is probably handling adjustments. Some of this is enough laps in the car right now to figure out where your car is going. If it's losing the front end or if it's losing the back end. These guys will be coming down pit road in about 20 laps, and the adjustments they make right now, Brad, are going to be very crucial because this race is only about 1 hour and 45 minutes long.
Absolutely.
A short race.
You're right. If we have any more caution laps, we're looking at possibly a 2-stop opportunity. That's it. So they have to get it right this time when they come down around 45 laps to stop, or you're going to miss your setup for the rest of the day. Could be a long and stressful day for some of those crew chiefs.
Let's find out how some of these front runners are doing and what they're reporting about their cars. We go up to speed with Nationwide Insurance. Jamie Little, you have the leader.
Yes, I do. Carl Edwards getting more pressure now than he's seen all race long. Started from the pole for the 3rd time. You see Brian Vickers go to the outside, running with his birthday thing. Carl Edwards turned 29 yesterday, and he just came over the radio and said, guys, my car is just a little free. Otherwise, it's pretty good. Shannon?
Well, Jamie, Brian Vickers is loving that high line right now. This is the same car that team had here last year. Brian Vickers thought it was a win contending car. They've just made some slight changes to the car this weekend. It was a little tight in first practice. They got very minimal practice in second practice because of media duties for winning the pole on the Cup side. But right now, Brian Vickers says he's really happy with the car. Jamie.
Tony Stewart looking to the inside, trying to find a spot and pick his way through, trying to get to the front. Tony Stewart, though, again in this 20 car. I talked to Dave Rogers, crew chief, and he told me, you know, this is the first time we're going to feel the effects of this horsepower deal. When we lost the 15 horsepower, he said we're not going to know until we're in race conditions if it will affect us. And right now, guys, Tony Stewart started 7th. He's up to 3rd. Doc?
Couple of Toyotas on the attack for that solitary Ford Fusion of Carl Edwards. It is Edwards, Vickers, and Tony Stewart. Now, remember this race a year ago, Brian Vickers started on the outside front row, had the fastest car on the racetrack, but they couldn't get it to take fuel during the pit stops. They had to make a couple of extra stops, and Vickers had to go to the back of the pack and drove that car all the way from the back to finish in 6th spot. He said, we have the same car, and we know it's going to be just as good. It depends on how much better everyone else is.
It just proves that you can have the best race car, you can have the best driver, you can have everything going your way, and one small detail can keep you from even being a contender. And that's what happened to Brian Vickers last year. And he's making up some ground right here. He's got a fast car. I think it's faster than Carl Edwards. He just can't quite get around him.
Yeah, he ran him down pretty quickly. He and Tony Stewart both, and they got there and looked like that he was going to make the pass on the outside. But Carl found something while they were racing there that's got him back to going pretty good. And you can see Carl seems to like the middle and bottom of the racetrack a little bit more. Tony looks like he wants to go, or just can go anywhere that he wants to. And Brian seems to be pretty much married to the top right at this point in time.
Traffic is the 24 car there, Eric McClure, and that was right up in front of Vickers. He had to move down behind him. He was up running on the outside of Tony Stewart. He will lose the 2nd position.
I tell you what, Jerry, I'm watching this race right now. You know, these guys have fell off about a second from what they started at, and they're running right on the bottom of the track, in the middle of the track, and the top of the track. And DJ, we talked earlier about this is one of the main reasons the drivers love this racetrack so much. They can go all over the place and search for grip out there.
Yeah, you're right, Rush. This is such a fun place to race at, and it's for that reason. You don't have to worry about somebody taking your line away, because you can just go anywhere on this racetrack. And, you know, we've won races and run races here where you were right on the bottom at one point on the white line down there. Then you had to move to the middle, and then you were scraping your back bumper on the wall. So it's just a great place to race.
Without all that being said, why is it so hard to get somebody cleared at this track, though? When you catch him, and like we just saw there, he couldn't quite get Carl Edwards clear.
Well, I think whenever you get there, it's a little bit different. You're trying so hard to make that pass, and sometimes you just want to make that little extra effort, and you get to that gas too soon, then you fly that front end just a little bit, and then you can't get by him. And so it's just different things. And sometimes the guy that's in front, when they run him down, he might have to slow down a little bit or do something because that car's gotten to the outside. Then all of a sudden, he's able to pick the gas up quicker. Carl Edwards might have learned something, as we see Greg Biffle trying to take away the 4th spot here from David Rudeman.
Biffle and Rudeman, that is 4th and 5th. You were talking about grip a moment ago, and Rusty Wallace commented. Rusty, I got to ask you, unlike some of the tracks like Charlotte or Las Vegas that have new pavement, the pavement here pretty slick and worn out. What can you do? I know some of the guys yesterday were talking to you about playing with air pressure to get more grip.
Yeah, Doc, this is one of the racetracks where Goodyear has a minimum recommended right front air pressure, and here it's 45 pounds. A lot of the tracks like Chicago and places like that with pretty good grip, they'll keep the air pressures way up, but this is one of the tracks where they'll get that pressure all the way down to bare minimum to try to get that grip all they possibly can. And you see the racing going on right now. These guys are slipping and sliding all over, and the reason they're changing these lanes is trying to find that grip. So air pressure is going to be the #1 tool they're going to use on this first step. Coming around this first stop, that's going to happen around lap 40 probably.
Got to get to lap 40, 42 to be able to make it on 2 stops. The guy right now who has the best tools in his toolbox is the 60 car. Carl Edwards trying to get Jack Roush to victory lane here in the shadows of Motor City. It's been all Edwards thus far. He has led all 28 laps back in just a moment. Big drama at Michigan, battle heating up front, and Brian Vickers is all over the back of the 60 car of Carl Edwards. Thought he was going to make the pass about 15 seconds ago, move back in behind him, and here he comes. What a run he's getting off the top of the racetrack.
It's unbelievable the momentum he's getting off this top side. He's found something. He's found a groove. He got by Tony Stewart pretty easily and looked like he was going to go right by Carl Edwards. But Carl's giving him a little more trouble.
Well, Carl's standing in front of him. He's taking part of that line away from him. He can see Brian's car's really good, but if you can take a little of that momentum away on the entry to the corner, then you can hold him off. But Brian's got to run now. I believe he's got the pass made here.
He's still got a little work to do. Carl gives it to him here.
I'm not so sure he gave it to him as much as Vickers just took it away. As soon as Brian Vickers moved to the high side, and you guys were talking about the different grooves, when he moved up at the top of the racetrack, he just took off.
Yeah, he tried a couple of laps down on the bottom, Brian actually did. I watched him go through a couple of corners, and he could actually hang with the guys, but it was like he wasn't making any ground, and he wasn't going to be able to pass him when he got there on the bottom, so he immediately went back to the top, and he's just set sail now.
can't believe the difference in the lines. I mean, you saw Carl Edwards going through the corner almost on the very bottom of the racetrack. You could drive, you know, a fleet of trucks between them.
That's what Michigan's about and why it's so much fun. And you have to have a really good car and obviously a lot of talent like Brian Vickers does to run that car right up there against the wall. To enter the first corner, you see almost against the wall there, and to let that car roll and have the confidence that it's not going to slide up there. There's not a lot of grip. He's found some, but it's not a ton up there.
Just saw Carl Edwards run the high line through 1 and 2.
More on Carl Edwards. Let's go down to Jamie.
Well, Doc, during that first caution in the beginning, Carl came over the radio and asked a couple of interesting questions to Drew Blickensderfer, his crew chief. He said, at what RPM will my rev limiter chip hit? And at what RPM will I turn the most horsepower? So for those answers, let's check in with Tim Brewer, who's at the Chevy Cutaway car.
Thanks, Jamie. What we got right here, folks, are the ignition system. We've got the coils, ignition boxes, but right here, this is a soft touch rev limiter. And what this is a module. We can actually control the RPMs the engine turns by inserting one of these in the control unit. But today, I'd say about 9,000, maybe 9,200. That's where they want these things to run, turning RPMs. But as far as where that thing makes the most horsepower, Jack Roush, he's the guy that knows the answer to that question. Guys?
Thank you, Tim. And some of the guys, I think, they want to keep those out of the reach of drivers so they can't reach over there and pull that thing out, because that could get ugly if you do that in a hurry.
Yeah, that's why you put them way over to the right side. And, you know, you put that chip in there just to keep it from over-revving the engine. If you miss a gear or something like that, some guys like for that chip to hit when they just enter the corner. This is one of those racetracks I don't think you really want it to hit that. You want to run right in the RPM band that makes the most power.
Pit stops will be coming up very shortly. We'll take a quick break and come back and cover what should be the first green flag and critical pit stops of what may be only a 2 pit stop race. Vickers, the leader, back in a moment. At Michigan International Speedway, our aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR, helping NASCAR drivers get to the finish line for over 50 years. Pit stops beginning here. First green flag stops. Let's go down to Mike.
And Jason Leffler on pit road right now. The car a little bit tight. They'll go to work on the right side, swinging around the left side. A pretty clean stop. They'll take on a full load of Sunoco race fuel, but really trying to loosen that car up right now for Jason Leffler. Dave?
Loosening the idea, too, for Cale Gale. They'll do that with air pressure for him. Remember, he started this race second, had faded back to the 6th position. A 4-tire change, just an air pressure adjustment, trying to get to turn a little better. Good stop. He leaves pit road.
Kevin Harvick watching his car leave. Here comes Mark Martin as he has he's leaving pit road, the same car he won with at Las Vegas, driving for Rick Hendrick and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the Junior Motorsports Chevy.
Mark had faded to about 19th there, so they had to do some work on his car to kind of get it handling a little better.
I think we might see our leader coming in right here. Since he's down on the bottom of the racetrack, he's been running the top as the first.
Here he comes.
Trent Owens and company.
But don't speed.
Brian Vickers, who led 44 laps in the Cup race back here in June, got a great top 5 finish, trying to win a nationwide event. Headed to you, Shannon.
That's right. Your race leader currently on pit road. Brian Vickers having a great race as the car is just a little bit snug for him. They're going to make a slight air pressure adjustment on that right front tire. They're also going to make a track bar adjustment for Brian Vickers as he's on pit road. The guys go around to the other side of the car. Mike.
David Ruderman saying he's loose in, tight center off, but he told his crew chief Jerry Baxter, don't work on the entry, just work on the exit. Baxter going to make a track bar adjustment and an air pressure adjustment on 3 of the 4 tires, Shannon.
Clint Boyer says he is tight getting in. This is your points leader right now. They're going to make air pressure all around, 2 pounds out of all 4 tires for Clint Boyer. Dave.
Track bar adjustment for Brad Keselowski. Pops Yuri asking him, is it still loose? Oh yeah, was the statement from the driver. So loose race car has caused him to be a little slow on the racetrack. Jamie.
And Carl Edwards just creeping down pit road into his pit box, dominating this race so far. He said early in the run he's loose, and then of course typical Michigan, it tightens up on him. They're just going to make a slight air pressure adjustment. 4 tires and fuel for the 60 of Carl Edwards, who's been pretty good and hasn't fallen out of the top 2. Dave?
Scott Wimmer is on pit road. Greg Biffle is on pit road. 4-tire change. Free it up just a tiny bit was Greg's request. The tires they're putting on the left side will start with a 0.5 pound less air pressure for Eddie Perdue, crew chief. Shannon.
Yeah, David Reagan on pit road right now in that number 6 car as those guys go to work. He says he needs the front end to turn just a little bit better. They're going to raise the track bar and make an air pressure adjustment as David Reagan is down his away. Jamie.
Tony Stewart steadily moving through the pack today. He said he's just a little bit tight, but the car's coming around to him. They're kind of plateauing right before they came down pit road. They're looking at an air pressure adjustment as well. 4 tires for the 20 car, Tony Stewart. Guys.
All these adjustments, and you hear them talking about DJ and Andy, how this track, they know what happens with this racetrack. It gets tighter and tighter. I guess you got to stay ahead of the curve with this adjustment here, knowing you're probably only going to get maybe one more stop.
Well, that's the tricky part. I just heard them talking about the 88 car still loose. They started their car out loose, anticipating that. But one thing we've seen, at least with this generation of tire, is that's not always the case. Some guys actually will get looser, and others will get tighter during the race.
Yeah, and I think that some of these guys, as we look at our leader right now, Mike Bliss, he came in our earlier caution flag, but yeah, these guys I think are finding out something that maybe some of the Cup guys found out earlier, that this tire might not tighten up as much as what they've seen here in the past, so they're going to have to adjust to that. And a lot of these guys, other than about your top 4 or 5, they would have liked to have had a caution to make some bigger adjustments on these cars, but they're having to do the quickest things they can right now to try to fix their problems.
That's one of the things when you come to Michigan, is you want to make sure that you have your car as close as possible, because you don't get a lot of cautions to work on it. Jamie?
And you're looking at Jason Keller in the 11 car, driving with a heavy heart. Big guy and he were very, very close. And as we talked about, he died early yesterday morning. And Jason Keller making his first pit stop of the day. He started 26th. They said they have a car to run top 10, so he's got to pick off a few more. See him go around to the left side. 4 tires and fuel for Jason Keller. Mike?
And Mike Bliss on pit road now. Another car complaining that he's a little bit tight. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment to that car and go to work trying to free him up a little bit. Team now swinging around to the right side, making a tire change there. Look for 4 tires. Sunoco Race Fuel also going to work on the chassis as they'll make a wedge adjustment on the right side as well, Doc.
Full cycle of pit stops taking place here between lap 42 and 47. Mike Bliss the last among the leaders. You heard Dale Jarrett mention that he had pitted on lap 5, but during that first caution flag. And by the way, you Stanton Barrett fans, a 30 car was black flagged because of an uncontrolled tire. He had to come back on the pit road. There are still a couple of cars off being worked on. Stephen Wallace behind the wall. Johnny Chapman in the garage area. Justin Hopgood, Kevin LePage, Johnny Sauter, and Kenny Hendrick also out of the race in the garage area. Brian Vickers being shown as the leader. Brian, the 2003 champion of the NASCAR Nationwide Series, has not won a race in this series, although he's been running infrequently here in almost 5 years, going back to Dover in 2003.
So we see Brian Vickers, he's got about a 4-second lead right here after this round of pit stops. He was the first one of these cars to make a pit stop, and looking at these lap times, Dale, they're a lot faster on new tires, and just that lap or 2 that he pitted earlier has gained him some track position here.
Yeah, but he stayed out long enough that he should be able to make it on one more stop if we happen to go green. So he didn't hurt himself. He actually helped himself, just like you said. It looks like his car is pretty free, but he's able to drive that. And then we heard him talk about his car was a little bit tight earlier. So it looks like they freed it up a little bit, and this should be better in the longer run, which might be bad news for everybody else.
Pit stops have taken place. Let's get you up close and personal with the sights and sounds of what happens on pit road. Front tire changer Steve Saradinsky out of Johnston, Rhode Island. He's the front tire changer for the 22 car of Josh Wise. Under caution in Michigan, there's the damaged car number 6 of David Reagan trying to limp his way back to the garage area after he spun off of turn 2 and had contact with the back of his Ford. Reagan said a moment ago he was very, very loose in the car, which is, as Andy Petrie said, was sort of an enigma here given the history of this racetrack.
Yeah, you do expect the track to tighten up. A lot of guys start their cars pretty free. You see David just gets really loose right here, basically by himself. They're on the verge of doing this just about every lap anyway.
Yeah, those first 5 or 6 and sometimes even 10 or 12 laps after you change tires and have made adjustments to your car, you see he got loose getting down in, tries to correct it, and this was just him trying to be as aggressive as he could. under that situation, but it's difficult. You're carrying a lot of speed down into that corner, especially with these cars where you're having to drive it so far into the corner anyway.
We showed you how tight the top 10 points were. He was 5th in points, just 11 points behind David Ruderman. And that crunch right there will not help his chances. He got both the nose and the rear of that car. There's our Aaron's Lucky Dog free pass winner, the 11 car, Jason Keller. And he will be able to get back on the lead lap. He was the first car a lap down. We will now have 21 cars back on the lead lap.
This will be a chance for a lot of these guys to turn some jack screws and get their car handling a little different. We saw Brian Vickers get a big lead on some of these guys. These other boys are going to have a chance to work on their car.
Everybody should be coming, though, right?
They should. I mean, the tires are worth so much. They don't have to because they can still make it on one more stop. So we see Brian Vickers does come down pit road. A lot of the leaders stayed out. Mike?
Last time down pit road, Jerry Baxter took a pretty big swing at the 99 car, trying to help him out a little bit. David came over the radio and said it helped a little bit on exit, but he needs more help in the center. They'll go to work on the track bar again, and still another slight air pressure adjustment. Now let's go to the Castrol GTX triple pits with Shannon.
Yeah, Mike, Brian Vickers is down and away. They just made a slight air pressure adjustment for that race leader number 32 car. Brian Vickers just needs to turn a little bit better as Brian Vickers heads down pit road.
Hey guys, the 88 car is on pit lane right now. A 4-tire change for Keselowski, still loose. A pound in the left rear increased. Also on pit road, 29 of Scott Wimmer, fuel only.
Some of the others that came in, the 1 car of Mike Bliss, 59 of Marcus Ambrose. 5 of Mark Martin. You heard he'd been wrestling with a loose race car, trying to get that car dialed in for the all-time winningest driver in Nationwide Series history. Carl Edwards, our leader. 54 of 125 laps are complete. Working lap 57 of the Carfax 250 here at Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. NASCAR Sprint Cup action coming your way tomorrow. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won his first and only race thus far in the season in Michigan back in June. There have been 11 different winners in the last 11 August races. Dale Jarrett is the only driver to win his first career NASCAR Sprint Cup race at Michigan. He did it back in August of 1991. Could we see another first-time winner? Our coverage begins tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern time with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestwick, Brad Doherty, and 5-time Michigan winner Rusty Wallace. Our points leader from the Cup side, Kyle Busch, not in the NASCAR Nationwide race today. He's actually over talking to David Hoots, and that is NASCAR Control next door. NASCAR President Mike Helton sitting there, Vice President Robin Pemberton, and of course David Hoots there talking to Kyle Busch, explaining how they're able to look at every single angle of pit stops and up and down pit road to sort of see how they make the calls, the difficult calls they have to make on Sunday.
I've done that. I've gone in there and watched that, and it's real education, isn't it, Dale? You get up there to see how they do all this and how much control they really have of the race in there.
Yeah, you're right, Andy. I had the opportunity at Daytona over the 4th of July to go watch them in the Cup race, and it is amazing. All of those things you took for granted for so many years, you see just how difficult a time they have, but they have the technology now to really keep up with everything going on, and they do a terrific job.
They have documented proof of what they need to show you in terms of who sped when and where on pit road and what happened on the racetrack. What's about to happen here is lap 58 and the green flag back in Michigan. Carl Edwards led 3 times for 36 laps. He was our pole sitter before Brian Vickers had gone by. And there have been 4 leaders, 6 lead changes. And thus far, just 2 caution flags for a total of 10 laps.
Well, Brian Vickers pitted there, and he's the first car back with tires that pitted. He was in 10th spot, and I don't think it's going to take, which we see Tony Stewart battling for the lead right now.
He knows these guys are coming behind him on tires. Yeah. He needs to get out there. Those top 8 guys, like I said, didn't stop. We'll see how it works out for him.
Stewart takes the lead underneath Edwards. Here comes Greg Biffle, Edwards' teammate by. Biffle has yet to lead today.
I saw Carl Edwards get a big jump on the initial start, but as they went through 1 and 2, Tony just had a big run off the corner and was able to pass Carl.
Carl kind of went to the very bottom of the track and may have bound his car up a little as we see him dive back to the bottom here. Tony was more in the middle of the racetrack and really got a good run off turn 2. Carl's battling back here, though. Could be a little bit of that horsepower difference there right now. As we see, Carl's going to make the pass. Whether he can hold that lead as Tony's going to come back on the outside here.
That was pretty impressive to do that on the bottom side of the racetrack with Carl.
As you see these cars running side by side and how even they appear to be in terms of horsepower on the racetrack, there's a lot of rumblings in the garage area that the chassis dyno is here in the garage, and they may consider checking some of these cars, you know, in the garage area after the race to determine exactly how much horsepower gets to the rear wheels. Battling back in the pack, the 2 car of Clint Boyer there to take the spot away from David Strimmy. That is 4th, 5th, and 6th.
David Strimmy having a good run here. He qualified up there as we see a battle for the lead once again. Tony Stewart on the high side of Carl Edwards this time.
Tony's not going to give it up. Got a crash here, 23 car.
That is Robert Richardson Jr. His Chevy, hard impact in the back.
He's still under power.
Looks similar to David Reagan's
Garage here, Rob.
A lot of loose race cars out there today.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of grip to be found on this racetrack, but I think that's one thing that the drivers like. I'm sure if you polled these guys, they would say, no, don't pave this racetrack. We like what we have because you can search around, and if you paved it, then the bottom's probably going to be the best way around for a while. But it really makes you work. As fun as we say this is, it is a lot of work out there because you're in the corner for a long period of time.
23 car, right side of your screen there.
He's basically out of control when he comes in the picture there, kind of by himself.
Robert Richardson, a former SMU quarterback, played a little college football, wanted to chase his dream of being a NASCAR driver and running a limited schedule this year, putting together their own racing operation and heavily damaging his Chevy here in the latest caution flag. There's our lucky dog, the 25 car, Bobby Hamilton Jr. He will get the Aaron's Lucky Dog free pass. The first car a lap down, getting back on the lead lap. And that will put now 22 cars on the lead lap. Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, Clint Boyer, and David Strimmy in the top 5 here with 65 laps to go at Michigan.
Carfax 250 is under caution here at the Michigan International Speedway. 3rd yellow flag of the race after Robert Richardson crashed just a moment ago. Backing up for a little bit of old business quickly, the 2nd caution caused by an accident involving David Reagan, Mike.
And you're right, Alan, and David Reagan disappointed, obviously, coming into this race, 301 points out of the point lead. Obviously, you were looking for a pretty big run today. It didn't happen. What happened?
Well, we just didn't start off that great with our discount tire Ford Fusion, and we were making some progress. Our team had a good pit stop, and we was getting there, but I was just overdriving, trying to get a little more out of the car than what was there. Made a mistake and, tore up our ride. So it looks like we'll try to get her fixed up, see if we can make it back out and get some points, but a pretty disappointing day. Felt like we could have, got a top 10. Wasn't that great, but was making progress.
Well, Alan, if you look behind David, you can see the car. They're putting the straps on. It looks like this is terminal. They're about to load it up.
It's a tough break for David Reagan, who again came into the day hoping to get back into things where this championship was concerned. Going back racing here with 62 laps to go. This is just past the midway point of the race, 1 lap past. And it brings up an interesting situation as we watch the restart action unfold. I want to bring the boys in the booth into this discussion, Rusty Brad as well, about strategy. We saw the top 8 guys running on the track now not pit under that previous caution. They all stopped under green between laps, say 42 and 44. We saw guys like Brian Vickers pit under the caution at lap 55. Everybody, by my numbers, is set to go to the finish on 1 more stop, but what's the right call?
I tell you, I'm real nervous about those guys, those top 8 cars that stayed out. They got about half their fuel burned out right now. And to me, this is pretty risky staying out at the moment because, gosh, if this thing runs green, they're going to have to pit under green this first stint versus going for a caution like just happened, guys.
Yeah, well, it's obvious. The top 8 guys who stopped around lap 44, they're obviously wanting another caution opportunity because they had to run 80 laps from that point on in order to finish the race. You're going to stop again in 40. They got 13 caution laps as we are right now, so that gives them 20 laps. It's going to be 20 laps short, so they have to get another caution. If they do, I think it puts them back in the field with the rest of the cars.
While we watch him mix it up, what do you guys think? What's the right call? What's the right strategy?
Well, I don't think there's really a wrong strategy. The only thing that will catch some of these guys, Alan, is the guys that make their pit stop under green. They'll have about 10 or 12 laps maybe before the other guys have to come in. That puts them in a risky situation to be down a lap for a period of time where a caution might come out and catch them down a lap.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Andy, and that's exactly what Rusty, I think, was saying, too, that these guys have put themselves in a much better position. They have options, and we're talking about Brian Vickers and David Ruderman and some other cars, Mark Martin, that made those stops. They have options where these other guys aren't going to have that option. When it comes time to pit and we don't get another caution here, they have to be under green, and so they could get themselves in trouble there.
They had to pay for that option, though, because Vickers had to go back to a 9th spot on this restart, and so he gave up the lead in the track position, but it does open up a lot of options for him, and I believe it'll be the right call for Vickers and the guys that made the pit stop.
They will have a 10-lap buffer to be able to make the call and get maybe a caution flag. Pretty good battle for third position here. Biffle and Boyer, the B brothers. Chevrolet for Boyer, Ford for Biffle. Clint Boyer, we mentioned he had been sliding backwards in the point stand. He's not had a lot of good luck recently. Needed to be able to pull away, hoping the day might happen. Shannon running awfully well now.
Yeah, Clint Boyer was battling some tight conditions earlier in the race, and they made some air pressure changes for that car. Right now, Clint Boyer says that car is good. Now, for that number 2 car, that is what Dan Deeringhoff, his crew chief, calls the latest body style. He said this is the first time that they're running this style on the track. They're just really interested to see how it performs. Dave.
A real veteran move by Greg Biffle that last lap. Heading down the straightaway, he asked his spotter, how much room behind me? 15 car lengths back to the next car. And so Greg just let Clint race by. He's challenging back now, but he thought, no reason to fight right now. I can just get back in line, and that's what he's done.
Running nose to tail in the draft here. You wonder why a racetrack like Michigan, we keep talking, every time we come here, we talk fuel mileage and fuel strategy. Why was such a good racetrack with so much room to race, and it's a speedway or a super speedway, why does this place always come down to who's got the most gallons?
It's just what you said. It's such a big racetrack. All these options for the drivers, they don't have to run into each other to make these passes, and so it's less risky for bringing out cautions. So when you have a lot of green flag racing, it brings in fuel mileage.
Yeah, we talk about how much fun it is as a driver. Sometimes it gets a little bit spread out because of the racetrack. We talk about how great it is, and it is great that you have those options, but it sometimes can create these type situations because, just as Andy said, you have room there not to run into each other, as these guys are about to run into each other, but it obviously narrows down as they get on the straightaway at times. But that's it. What makes it fun can also make it a fuel mileage track also.
I wonder how much fun Joey Logano is having. Jamie.
I don't know if he's having too much fun racing back there in the pack. We know he likes to run up front, but yesterday he was explaining his car to me in practice, and he must have said the word loose about 5 times in one sentence. So, of course, the team tightened him up. Well, today he is wicked tight. They are off sequence right now. They pitted about lap 43 with everyone else, took a spring rubber out, but then they came back in on lap 54 and made a wedge adjustment. He said it's a bit too tight still, but it's a lot better as he continues to click off the drivers right now. Joey Logano, 12th. Dave?
Jamie, that last set of corners, we saw Brad Keselowski dive that Navy Chevy down to the bottom of the racetrack. He's talked to his crew through the radio. He said, I can't make this car work up top at all, especially in 1 and 2. I've got to go to the bottom. And their biggest concern is he's been losing a lot of positions at the start of runs. They'll try to work on that on their last pit stop.
Crew chief, what do? He said they are losing positions early on in a run with fresh tires. How do they adjust that?
Well, that's sometimes hard to do. If you've got a car that does tighten up as you run, you have to start out real free, and that's how you lose those spots. I mean, if you can set it up for a short run expecting cautions, but you just can't count on that being the case here. They have to plan on and count on these long runs.
Yeah, and as a driver, Brad's just going to have to figure out, okay, if my car will only go in one place good, that's where I have to run until we can make another adjustment. He said his car wants to run on the bottom. That's where he's going to have to make the most time, do whatever he has to do to they can adjust it again. And sometimes you might just make some other changes, and then your car works better at the very top of the racetrack. And that's what you just have to do as a driver, and why you feel good if you've done well here, because you have to know as a driver when to make those adjustments at this track. See these two guys battling again. This is a big day, I think, for Clint Boyer, and he's able to race himself up into the 3rd spot right now. This is a huge opportunity for him to say, look, guys, y'all might have gained some on me, but I'm going to battle you to win this championship.
what Clint Boyer has going for him, Andy, is the fact that they've got Richard Childress racing, and anytime he starts feeling some stress, just stroll over to old RC. He's been around a little while. He's won how many titles in the trucks and Cup and Nationwide, so he's obviously got a lot of experience to be able to help Clint out a little bit.
Yeah, he'll bring these boys back to the center of the road if they stray, if they stray a little bit. I've been there before.
Up front, it's Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Clint Boyer, Greg Biffle, Brian Vickers, and folks, don't look now, but that 99 car for David Rudiman is on the march. We'll update Rudiman's pursuit of the lead when we come back to Michigan in just a moment.
As always, a busy weekend of motorsports on the ESPN networks. NHRA, Toyo Tires Nationals qualifying, NHRA drag racing, ESPN2 tonight, 6 Eastern time. NASCAR now previewing the Michigan race tomorrow morning, 10 Eastern, wrapping up the Michigan race tomorrow night at 1 a.m. Eastern, late night after the NHRA finals. And of course, we have our coverage of the Sprint Cup race from here in Michigan, ESPN, 1 Eastern time tomorrow. Maybe a little preview of tomorrow's race. Tony Stewart in the 20, Carl Edwards today in the 60. He'll be in the 99 tomorrow. He's got a very good car for tomorrow's race. He's also got a little bit of an extra passenger on the grill of that car. A little bit of trash there, keeping that 60 company. We'll keep an eye on that.
Tell you what, guys, one thing I can't hardly believe is how fast the 20 car, Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, are running compared to the rest of the field. I mean, there's been times where they've been over half a second faster than the rest of this field, and they're so far out front right now. They can afford to do what they're doing, racing side by side. I mean, Brad, look behind them. They can't see anybody. They're so far ahead.
They are
real.
Color me going right now, baby. These two guys are getting after one another. But I want to give a shout out to Cale Gale, who stayed in the top 10 all day long after starting on the outside pole. Got a good run going for himself. And David Rudiman's had a good run. But these two guys are the cream of the crop right now.
There's Cale Gale in 33 car. And as Brad mentioned, in 9th place. Top two, 6.5 seconds ahead of third place. Let's take you up to speed. Jamie, what are they saying in the 20 pit?
Well, Tony Stewart says he's just a little tight to start up, but the car's coming around. All in all, he said it's pretty good. Now, Dave Rogers told me they want to go to victory lane so badly for this last time with Tony Stewart. They worked on this car for 3 weeks. He said they put as much time and effort into this car that they do for their Daytona car. So far it's paying off. We'll see if they can make it to victory lane for the first time together here in Michigan. And right behind him, Carl Edwards. Well, if he and Tony Stewart were going to be buddy-buddy, they'd get up close to each other and hopefully help him out with getting that wrapper off the front. But the temperatures are good in Carl Edwards' car. He says it's pretty good. He just wants to reel in that Toyota, guys. He was, Carl Edwards, the favorite coming into this race. Shannon?
Well, Jamie, Brian Vickers in that number 32 car. He restarted 10th when he came down pit road right about lap 54. And right now he's moved his way back into the top 5 for Brian Vickers. He is loving this car right now, and he is just moving his way through the field. He said he felt that he had the car to win last year, and he loves this car right now. Now, as far as Clint Boyer right behind him, your points leader. Now, Clint Boyer, they have to come down and pit right around lap 55, but maybe expect them to come down a little bit before. The car is loose off right now for Clint Boyer, but he is holding strong in that top 5. Mike?
Well, Shannon, Jerry Baxter and David Rudiman, like most of the Toyota teams, very concerned about this race and how the car would react to the taper modification, the rule change. So to compensate for that, they spent a lot of time at the wind tunnel over the last couple of weeks, 3 visits in fact, really working on downforce, trying to make up for it. It appears to be working right now. David Rudiman running solid inside the top 10 all afternoon so far. Just behind him, well, one of the favorites coming into this race has been Mark Martin, but if he is able to pull off this victory, it will be among the most satisfying. It has been a ton of work for that team all weekend long, fighting a tight condition. They made a major track bar adjustment, raising it 3 rounds last time down pit road. And they've already talked about maybe raising it another 4 rounds in the next visit, Dave.
Biffle fading, restarted 3rd during this last run, has gone all the way back to the 9th position now, guys, is it? Or 7th position, sorry. Lost 4 positions, and he's complaining that the car is just a little bit too loose right now for Biffle. Doc?
Thanks, guys. Lap 82, which means the top 2 cars, Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, should be coming on the pit road sometime in the next 7 to 9 laps. Remember, Vickers, who came on the pit road, Rudiman and Mark Martin can run at least 10 more. 40 laps laps to go here in the Carfax 250 in Brooklyn, Michigan. Aerial coverage brought to you by our good friends at Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR, helping NASCAR drivers get to the finish line for over 50 years. Pit stop starting to take place. Let's go down to Dave.
And Doc, one of those Goodyear tires on Scott Wimmer's car may have run over something that caused it to go down. 10 laps ago, he radioed in that his car had gone suddenly loose. And then about a lap ago, he said, I think I may have a tire coming apart or at least going down. So crew brought him in. This is a little bit early, but they should be able to make it to the end of the race on this stop. He's the first to pit of the leaders.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be able to make it to the end, so this is not going to hurt him too much if the caution doesn't come out. He's a lap down right there. The leaders did lap him while he was in the pits.
Tony Stewart pitted on lap 45. Carl Edwards lap 44. Andy, you're working the calculator pretty hard up here. What do you think? Can they go 2, 3, 4 more?
Yeah, that's about it. They can go a few more laps here, and they have to come in. They're going to get fresh tires, and one thing that's going to happen right here is these guys are going to run so much faster than the other guys that are on the racetrack that it might force the hand of some of those guys that did make that pit stop and can go farther to come in a little early.
Yeah, we see 8th and 9th right here of Jason Leffler and Kelly Byers, two guys that we haven't talked much about today, but they're doing a terrific job. They've battled, they've been in the top 10, and just had a really great race back in there amongst themselves. But this is really good for these guys to run this well on this type of racetrack.
Speaking of young drivers, here's Cale Gale. Dave.
Doc, he was one of the cars that stayed out earlier, so they definitely need to come down pit road now. Loose has been the operative word for this race car most of the day. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment for Cale. Ernie Cope on the pit box this week, another Truck Series crew chief for KHI, getting a turn at running this program for this week. Next week it'll be Rick Wren again. So running through all of the people working for KHI, trying to find that combination and keep this team going strong.
Started today with his best career qualifying effort. Second, he qualified third the last time he was in this car at O'Reilly Raceway Park, having a good run today in the 33 car.
And that was the last stop of the day, the last scheduled stop for these guys, and had a little problem on the left front. You know, these guys wanted to make a good, clean stop there. A little frustration.
Let's listen into Tony Stewart's radio on what they're going to do here pit strategy-wise.
Copy that, folks. Leave your air pressures alone. Get your track bar up for you. I was planning on taking some out of left rear. I was going to take a pound out of left rear, put a half pound in the right rear. But if your action's good, I don't need to do that. It's probably not going to hurt us to do that. Still 210 on the water, too. It's not going to hurt us to get some tape on it.
What are they trying to do with the 20?
They're trying to free him up a little bit. They're talking about air pressure and track bar. What's the best option here? And then, like Tony just said, it's only 210 degrees on the water. They can afford to run the thing up to 230, 240. They can stand a little tape for downforce.
David Stremme is in. Jamie.
Been running top 10. Pretty good run for David Stremme. He's been out of the car here for 3 weeks. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment. 4 tires for that 64, guys.
Trying to get him completely full of fuel. Finally, he's down and away. And a little bit of smoke puffing out of the back of the 99 and the 2. Let's watch these two guys battling for position. That's 4th and 5th.
Looks like Clint got a little bit too loose on the bottom and didn't have enough room to catch it.
And now the 99 has gotten into the wall coming off of turn 2.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's had some problems. Yeah, he's blown a left front tire from that tire rub.
Wow.
Yeah, it just got worse for him.
That's really unfortunate for David. He had a great run going, and he was
just
wasn't doing anything there.
Yeah, he was running in 4th position, and Boyer in 5th spot.
Car hit us flat on our left side.
Caution is out. This is going to change some things here, boys. Had a few guys had to make that pit. This is just what we talked about.
And you wonder how close some of these guys are running around here under caution, Andy. That these leaders that didn't pit, especially the top 2 guys, Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards.
Well, we've had some caution laps for these guys to extend their range a little bit, but they are right at that window. They need to come in.
Patrick Carpentier, by the way, was on pit road when this contact occurred and the caution came out. He is back on the racetrack. David Ruderman finished runner-up in the points a year ago, came into here 5th in the point standing. So the drivers in 4th and 5th, David Reagan and David Ruderman, have had their troubles today. Reagan still back in the garage area. Ruderman here coming down heavily damaged.
Some of the cars that got caught down a lap were the 29 car, Scott Wimmer. You just mentioned Carpentier, David Stremme and Cale Gale.
Turn in there. Turn in there.
Looks like Wimmer may get the lucky dog. Yeah, that's a lot of damage right there. That's going to take a while to fix.
By the way, as he heads to the garage, we'll mention you Stephen Wallace fans, he is back on the racetrack in his 66 car. David Reagan still out trying to get his 6 car repaired. They got to come through the back of the Cup Series garage and head over to the Nationwide garage. Critical pit stops. The Castrol GTX triple pits. Let's go down to Shannon's Page.
Yeah, Doc, Brian Vickers says the car's just getting a little bit tight. He's coming down pit road. His guys are on the wall waiting for him to come down as they go to work on that car. They're just going to make a track bar adjustment and an air pressure adjustment for Brian Vickers just to help loosen him up just a little bit. Dave.
Biffle, middle of your screen, the car has now gone tight. They need a track bar adjustment, 4 tire change, air pressure adjustment as well for Greg. Jamie.
Tony Stewart, bottom left, was your leader. He's going for an unprecedented 6th win in 9 starts. He said the car is good on throttle. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, track bar, and Tony asked for a little tape on that front grille to get that nose down, a little more downforce. He's down and away, guys.
Carl Edwards up a spot, Vickers up, Tony Stewart back 2, Mark Martin up 2 positions.
He's back in it now. Joey Logano gains 3 spots.
Joey Logano up 3 positions. And folks, Mark Martin, the winningest driver in NASCAR nationwide history, is back in this shootout. It should be fun to watch. There was the contact, and Rudeman had slammed the wall to bring out caution number 4. Back with a green in a moment. NASCAR Sprint Cup action coming your way tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won his first and only race thus far of the season back here in June. There have been 11 different winners in the last 11 August races. Yeah, Rusty Wallace has won here 5 times. Dale Jarrett's won here 4 times. Who will it be? Our coverage begins 1 o'clock Eastern Time with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestwick, Brad Daugherty, Rusty Wallace will take a look at how the Goodyear tires are also built. Andy Petrie visiting the Goodyear factory a week or so ago. There's a damage on the 99 car of David Rudeman, who was having a great run here today. Look again at what happened here just a moment ago.
He thinks that I come up into him. I never he has tons of room. Don't worry about him, man. You didn't do nothing wrong. You're fine. You talk to him about what happened here.
That was Clint Boyer talking with the spotter and then folks in his crew talking about going up across the racetrack. Obviously, David Rudeman not real happy. Now, how do you guys break that down?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at that, and I see that Rudeman, he had about 2 or 3 car widths. He could have gone up towards the wall, maybe giving Clint some more room. How do you see that, Dale?
Well, I think David Rudeman was coming off on his line. Clint came up further than what David Rudeman had room to go out there. I mean, you know, it's racing accident, and it's the type of things that happen here at Michigan, but there's no way that he can put that on David Rudeman. Was it anybody's fault? I don't know. I wouldn't just say blame anybody, but it certainly wasn't David Rudeman's fault. Just things that are going to happen as we get ready to go back to green here.
It'll be 30 laps to go as they come down and take the green flag. This time by 95 will be complete. Couple of cars trying to stay on the lead lap in the front there. Patrick Carpentier in the 9 car. David Strimmy, Cale Gale.
These kind of restarts are always risky because you got guys up there that are not on the lead lap, racing really hard to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, Carl Edwards is the leader in the 60 car. There's Carl flashing by there with Brian Vickers behind him, and then Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, and Greg Biffle. That is the top 5.
The Brian Vickers crew did a great job getting him out ahead of Tony Stewart. Mark Martin had also beat Tony Stewart out, but right now Tony has
he's moved back
around Mark Martin. He's obviously shown that he probably has the fastest car here, and Brian Vickers may argue about that too, but Tony's been able to make a lot of passes throughout the day.
They are black flagging the 29 car of Scott Wimmer because he was the lucky dog to get back on. We got trouble on the racetrack. The 9 car. Patrick Carpentier.
Turn us around. 64 just turned us around. Hold on to it. Hold on to it. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Gather it up and go.
A flat left front tire. He better not go too hard, had Andy.
No, that's Keith Barnwell, the spotter. And
Patrick is bringing it to
trying to get him back
up here, and all the tires are still up.
That's what we were just talking about. It's risky right here on these restarts when these guys are trying to stay on the lead lap.
That will bring out caution for the 5th time, and he's trying to get back to pit road with that left front tire down and not tear up a fender. Strimmy in the 64.
Oh, he just catches the back of Patrick there.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that happened. Be interesting to see how NASCAR views this, because that was to stay on the lead lap, and if they have any potential problem with that from David Stremme.
They're spinning down low in front of you. Stay up high and you're good. All right, caution's out.
The obvious result there is, with the caution coming out, Stremme would be able to go back and stay on the lead lap as he's in front of the leaders. Patrick Carpentier spins around, heads down the pit road. The 9 car makes it a complete 360, has a left front tire down. No other contact. Less than 30 to go. Edwards, Vickers, Stewart, Martin, and Biffle, the top 5.
Beautiful day here at the Michigan International Speedway for the Carfax 250 NASCAR Nationwide Series race, down to its closing moments. 26 laps to go. Our aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR, helping NASCAR drivers get to the finish line for over 50 years. Half a lap from the restart. Let's go to Mike Massaro.
And Alan, a tough day for those guys trying to chase down Clint Boyer in this point standing. We saw David Reagan crash earlier. Now David Ruderman in the garage. David, what happened?
We just got run into, and it knocked the left front fender in and cut the left front tire down, and it hit the fence pretty hard.
Did Clint give you enough room? He said on the radio he did.
Not from where I was sitting. I mean, the only thing between me and Clint is the wall, so I don't know. I'd have to see a replay, but I was getting a little tight on exit, so I was coming off a little lower, you know, to try to give my car a little extra room to get out against the wall. And if that's his version, fine. If you don't want to own up to wrecking me, it's no big deal.
Well, Doc, a lot of damage on this 99 car. Lots of suspension parts are broken, but they're still going to work, trying to get them back on the racetrack.
Thanks, Mike. No indecision as to what David Ruderman thought happened there, sitting there with a wrecked race car after running fourth here a good bit of the day. 26 laps to go. Who will it be? Carl Edwards wants to win one for Jack Roush and Roush Fenway. Brian Vickers knows that Toyota has never won a NASCAR Nationwide Series race at Michigan here in the shadows of the big 3 automobile manufacturers. How big would it be for them? Tony Stewart also there, back in 3rd spot. And Mark Martin, you just can't count Mark Martin out. The pit stop, they got him back out as now Stewart tries to take the 2nd spot away.
These are the 3 cars that's been battling. Oh, it looks like Stewart got a little bit loose right there.
I'd say maybe a lot loose right there.
Yeah, that was close right there.
But that's what's going to happen. That's what's so great about this. That's what makes it difficult. You might run somebody down. You might make that move, but you're not going to always get the pass made.
Three wide. They were going to go for a moment. Is down on the inside, Biffle and Mark Martin. Biffle the 16, Martin the 5. That's 4th and 5th. Whoa, Mark Martin a little loose coming up off the corner.
Yeah, he might get a little help get loose there from Biffle. Here comes Cale Gale.
Yeah, he's a lap down. He's the first car not on the lead lap. He would be the lucky dog winner if he were to get the caution. Here comes Martin Martin back to maybe see if he can help Greg Biffle get loose like he got a moment ago.
These cars get really aero loose here. You can really make a big change in somebody's car without ever touching them, just getting up really close behind them, and it make a huge difference in lifting the back end of the car up literally by taking a lot of that air away.
More on Mark Martin with Mike.
And Doc, as you guys were talking about Mark, you said he got a little bit loose. Well, that's kind of an odd description. That's the first time he's gotten loose all day long. This team has been struggling mightily with a very tight race car. In fact, at one point, Mark even apologized to his team, saying, look, guys, I thought we set this car up loose enough to start the race, but I guess not. They've made several turns on the track bar just trying to free him up. And finally, he feels like he's got a pretty good race car.
Mike, in the pretty good race car category, give a call to Joey Logano. Now, he's driving the 18 car. It was actually scheduled to be driven by Kyle Busch. The team told me that they asked Kyle, would you mind if we put Joey in the car because he needs to be on a 2-mile racetrack. It's his first time to come here and race, although he tested an ARCA car here about a year and a half ago and doing a heck of a job coming back, now being shown in 6th spot.
That's part of NASCAR's approval process for these young guys, these rookies, is to put them on different tracks of different sizes. And he'll need to get the approval after he runs a 2-mile track. Then he can run a 2.5-mile racetrack. I'm sure they want to get ready for Daytona next year.
Yeah, he's doing a great job right now. We saw Tony Stewart get a little bit loose there again as Greg Biffle got up on the back of his car. And it looks like maybe Tony's car is not exactly to his liking right at this point in time. The problem is he only has 21 more laps to get it figured out and try to get to the front.
He's not losing too much ground to these guys, but he is struggling a little bit with the car.
Carl Edwards has got out front and put a little bit of distance between himself and these 3 cars that you see, Brian Vickers, Tony Stewart, and Greg Biffle here. He outran them all by about 0.3 of a second the last lap. Let's go down to Dave with more on the 16.
Yeah, DJ, they knew this was going to be a good weekend for Greg Biffle, if not a great weekend. Crew Chief Eddie Pardue told me that right off the truck, Greg did an 8-lap run. Now, 8 laps may not seem like a lot to most folks, but for Greg, that meant the car was comfortable enough and he wanted to see what it would do at the end of that run. That was a long first run for Greg Biffle in practice here on Friday. So starting there, they went a little bit further with the car, found some more things, but that first run gave them a first indication that they'd be competitive this weekend.
Biffle making a move underneath Stewart for position. Greg Biffle getting better and better. Takes a 3rd spot away, 20 laps to go.
He did it all the racetrack right there, too, in making that pass. He was in the gas hard, but got pretty loose. We see a little bit of debris on the grill of Greg Biffle. If it's not overheating him, it's probably a help here, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, when it gets down to the end of the race like this, if you wouldn't even want to clean that off if it's not running hot, because it'll give you more downforce, and you don't have to take extra time to put tape on it. That's actually a pretty good thing right now.
Let's take a look at our Holiday Inn Express race summary here with less than 20 laps to go. There have been 4 different leaders, 10 lead changes. Carl Edwards has led the bulk of the laps today. There's the average speed, 132.408 miles per hour. 18 cars still on the lead lap in Michigan. There have been 20 laps under caution. There are 8 cars in the garage area.
After these guys made that first run, Brian Vickers had the lead. They made that first round of pit stops, and Vickers wound up with like a 4 or 5 second lead on these guys, and now he's chasing Carl Edwards. Doesn't seem like his car is quite as good as it was that first run.
No, and it's the racetrack will change some here, and sometimes that's what will happen. You change a set of tires, and the racetrack changes it a little bit. You start trying to make adjustments, and sometimes you just don't see good things happen, and we've got a heck of a battle going on here.
Last week's winner, Marcus Ambrose, in the 59 car, got his very first NASCAR Nationwide Series win on his 59th career start on the road course at Watkins Glen. They said, okay, we know he can drive a road course, but how about an oval? And he is doing a heck of a job. He has driven that car, the JTG Doherty Ford, up to 12th position.
And that's nice to see that he can come here and have a good run. That's the kind of things that he needs to show everybody that, hey, I am capable, if I have the race car, of racing on these type of racetracks. We know what a great road racer he is, but he's doing a really good job here today trying to race his way into the top 10.
We asked him after the win last week at Watkins Glen, what's next? And his thoughts were, you know what? It's all about me trying to prove myself on an oval. Here's what he had to say.
First thing I said when I get out of the car is, don't label me a road racer. I've got to win on an oval. I've got to really demonstrate on the ovals what I've got. I want to be known as a NASCAR driver, not just a road race specialist. I feel like I've done a lot of the hard work. I feel really good on the ovals now. I feel like I'm ready to pounce.
He did a great job qualifying the Wood Brothers car into tomorrow's NASCAR Sprint Cup event. He'll be driving the 21 car there and doing a heck of a job trying to move in on a top 10 finish here today.
Yeah, the driver can make up a lot of ground on a road course just on skill alone, but that's hard to do on an oval. You really got to have the right equipment, and the driver's part of that too. You just got to have a really good car on these oval tracks to do good.
Yeah, it's a really good car right now is Greg Biffle. He's making up some time. He's trying to take over the second spot here from Brian Vickers. Greg's got his car, it looks like right on the bottom every lap. Brian's really been kind of middle and bottom. He's really searching with his race car right now. And we see Greg make a big arc into the corner and then go right to the bottom, right on that yellow line. Shannon, how about Brian Vickers? What's going on with him?
Well, right now his spotter is telling him to move up on the racetrack between 3 and 4. He said that's where he's getting beat right now. As Carl Edwards is slowly increasing that lead a little over about 2.5 seconds over Brian Vickers in second right now. So Brian Vickers really been battling tight conditions all day and is now trying to move his line to get that car a little bit better.
Thanks, Shannon. Here's our points leader, the 2 car. Clint Boyer, we showed you the contact, the body slam between the 2 and the 99, and he has lost a spot. Mike Bliss has taken the 7th spot away. Boyer now, as of right now, would have a 121-point lead, so the lead would shrink even more if the 60 car of Edwards holds on and wins, and Boyer finishes where he's running right now, which is 8th spot.
A lot of great battles going on here, just all over the racetrack. And if Biffle can ever clear him, he might have a run, as it looks like he has cleared him now as he goes down into turn 3.
We talked at the top of the show about how it's a point of pride for the manufacturers when they come to this racetrack. Chevy has won 5 of the last 6 here. And Dale, we looked at this morning, and the last time Jack Roush had won here with his car was 1998 with Jeff Burton. How much would he want his guys to be able to win here with Ford just down the street?
Yeah, when you talk about pride, Jack Roush obviously has a lot of that. As we see, Tony Stewart passed 2 cars right there, went from 4th to 2nd. Now Greg Biffle's battling back on the inside, and Brian Vickers going to the high side, 3 wide.
Whoa! Right up in front of Vickers, and Brian wisely able to back out enough to get the car on the top of the racetrack. Now 3 different lines to the turn.
That was good judgment and a lot of skill right there.
A lot of skill, definitely, no doubt about that, as Tony's fighting back. He's going to take that 2nd spot back. His car might be coming in now, but I'm afraid that he might be too far behind. They're a little over 3.5 seconds back of our leader, Carl Edwards, right now.
Yeah, Carl's loving this right here. These guys are fighting hard.
Carl Edwards, the pole sitter, has led 5 times for 59 laps.
It's like Mark Martin snuck into this picture too while those guys were racing.
Yeah, that's the margin, by the way, to Edwards, the leader. About a turn, a full turn 3 and part of turn 4.
As much as we talked about the top of the middle of the racetrack, since they went back to green, Carl Edwards has been right on the bottom of the racetrack, taking that shortest way around and making that really work.
That last lap, those guys were able to beat Carl Edwards by just a little bit while they were not racing. If this group can stay single file, quit arguing over this 2nd spot, maybe they can run down Carl Edwards.
Mark Martin's onboard camera back in 5th position, watching the battles move in front of him. More on the 20 car with Jamie.
Well, Doc, before that last pit stop, Tony Stewart was the leader, but we didn't talk about what got him back in the pack. He had a slow pit stop, and this is what he and Dave Rogers, his crew chief, said on the radio.
You think we're going to make it easy on you, did Smoke? We want a show, man.
You're fixing to get one. We'll be in good shape here, boys.
Oh, yeah. We're fine.
And Tony Stewart trying to put on one heck of a show. He's got a little loose, but he said he's having a hard time turning, and that, guys, is costing him a lot of time. And right now, I think he's running out of time to get the job done as Carl Edwards checks out.
Jamie, not only is there 10 laps to go in the race for Tony Stewart, there are 10 laps to go in his NASCAR Nationwide Series career as a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. He has won 5 times in 8 starts in 2008. Last time he will be in one of these cars in this series as a Joe Gibbs driver, and I got to believe he's doing everything he can do to try to reel in Carl Edwards here in his final lap.
He's doing everything he can, and he chipped away just a couple of hundredths that last lap, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to have to figure out a way to try to chew into that lead just a little bit more, Carl. 9 laps to go.
Well, we've got a battle here between Joey Logano and Mike Bliss for 6th and 7th. And Andy, I'm going to give you props since you just turned 50 yesterday on us. As we were talking about our sleepers, this is the guy you first were going to go with, and it would have been a great choice.
Hey, you guys give me a hard time because I pick Mike Bliss as a sleeper too often. But here he is now. He's doing a great job right here, trying to go for a top 5 finish.
It's okay if you believe in Mike Bliss. He's done a heck of a job here. How about these guys here, Biffle, Vickers, and Martin?
A little argument over real estate here. These guys keep making passes, and it looked like Biffle, maybe he got down on the bottom a little too much and wore some good rubber off of those Goodyear tires.
He was real strong there for a few laps, and now these guys are able to get back by.
Wow, that was a small hole that Mark Martin slid his Chevrolet into.
Remember, he had this car at Las Vegas, and he put it in he was pretty aggressive in those final laps at Las Vegas involving a couple of cars in contact. Got him the win. Now on the bottom of the racetrack, trying to get that 3rd spot away.
This is great racing. We wish it was a battle for 1st, but these guys are battling for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You see Tony Stewart in 2nd, just in front of them. This is what makes these guys love to come here and race, and why they want to run in the Nationwide Series, because, you know, just running 400 miles on Sunday isn't enough for them. They need that 250 miles that they can come out here and have a good time.
That speed has stabilized now. Carl Edwards, again, got beat that last lap by Tony Stewart just a little bit.
Two cars still slipping back a little bit. This is going to cost him even more points. Clint Boyer trying to hold on. By the way, the car he had contact with, David Ruderman, back on the racetrack. Jerry Baxter and that crew getting him back out. He is 26 laps down, being shown in 34th position. '38 car, Jason Leffler. And he continues to have another top 10 run. Solid run today for the Braun Motorsports efforts for Jason Leffler.
And the Braun guys having a good day. Got Vickers up there in third. There's Jason Leffler in the top 10.
And we got Kelly Byers just behind these guys in the 10th spot, who's done a really good job. The guy that came in here second in the points, Brad Keselowski, just behind them. There's Kelly Byers. He's just done a really solid job all day long in that car.
23-year-old Wisconsin driver is Byers, and of course he's Marcus Ambrose's teammate. So you know what, Marcus got a little love with that win at Watkins Glen. Maybe I can get us something here. Here again, here goes the 32. Vickers going by Tony Stewart to take the spot away. That's second position.
Yeah, Vickers' car has come to life, but it's just not enough time unless we have a caution flag for this 32 to challenge Carl Edwards.
And Vickers 0.2 of a second quicker that time by than Carl Edwards, but they're running out of laps.
See right there, Tony Stewart got right up next to the wall and had to get out of the throttle and let Mark Martin move on the inside.
And we heard him talking about Brian Vickers' car was a little bit tight as we see these two veterans battle for the third spot. And sometimes it's hard to get yourself. We know he was running the high line, but your car that tight, it's really hard to get up there against the wall because you just don't have enough room. So we see Mark Martin take that third spot away from Tony Stewart. But Tony battling back to the inside. That's what's so great. You think you've made that pass and you get by, and here comes the guy. He's got back to the gas and used the draft a little bit to get back in front of you.
And if you're Mark Martin, it's got to be a helpless feeling.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's aggravating at the same time, you know.
Three to go.
Carl Edwards 3.4 seconds ahead of Brian Vickers. A great battle here. Stewart, Martin, that's third position. Biffle is back in fifth. Yeah, there's Vickers coming by.
I think a lot of guys had really solid runs here today as we watch these guys battle up towards the front. Somebody I've been impressed with, Andy, is Dario Franchitti. He's back in 13th spot, and I saw Dario in the garage area, and he was glad to be back in the car. He enjoyed last week. He had a great run, and obviously doing a good job, and just hoping that he can find his way back to the Sprint Cup Series.
He's learning every time he gets in the car. He learns a little bit more, and he's about the stock cars. He's a great race car driver and a winner, and I know that once he learns this stock car racing skill, he's going to be a contender.
Yeah, settled the pole last week at Watkins Glen, finished career best fifth.
There's our leader right there, Carl Edwards' car. A little different color as you saw this week, but man, he got his car right whenever it was time.
What is it about Brian Vickers? He always runs well here. He led 44 laps in the Cup race back in June, got a top 5 finish. He led in this race a year ago, had one of the best cars, ended up finishing 6th. May finish second today. Is it certain racetracks and certain drivers? I know you love this place.
Yeah, it is a fun place, and you get a feel and you adapt as we have a crash here, but the white flag has already been displayed.
And so the race will be official because they are waving the Kevin Moss, waving the white in caution, and Carl Edwards will get the win.
Caution is out.
So for the first time in his NASCAR Nationwide Series career, Carl Edwards is a winner at Michigan.
Carl was asking about a green-white checkered. He don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about it. But if that happened a corner sooner, he would have had his hands full with Brian Vickers, I'm afraid.
Well, he might have, but man, they really got that car right at the right time, and he had it hooked up on the bottom of the racetrack.
He earned this one for sure.
Yeah, he earned it, and he's earned a pretty good point today, too. He's going to like what he sees when he gets out of that car as far as the points go.
Yeah, right now he's showing 113 points back of the 2 car of Clint Boyer, who slid back to 10th position. Edwards coming down, waving to the crowd here.
Yeah, that's it. Checkered flag. Good job.
It'll be Carl Edwards' third win of the 2008 season. He won at Milwaukee. He won at Gateway and now gets his first win, and the first win for Roush Fenway at this racetrack since 1998.
It's important when they come here for Jack Roush and his organization. He does a lot with the car manufacturers and obviously Ford Motor Company, and this is an important time when they come here for the 2 Cup races and this nationwide race.
Dave Burns is caught up with his crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer.
Yep, he's getting a lot of props from everybody. There's a handshake to the motor guy who was pacing until the end. Every part of Carl's game today seemed to get him to victory lane, Drew, it looked like.
Yeah, you know, if we don't win in Michigan in Jack's backyard, it's pretty disappointing for us. This is his Daytona. You know, being in a Ford, it's pretty cool being this close to Dearborn, so we're excited.
And you're now 113 points back of the 2 car with his problems today.
You know, we focus on winning races. We don't worry about where he is. If we win, we'll gain on who we need to gain on, and that's how it plays out.
He played out victory lane today. This morning, Drew told me the one thing he has to make sure he works on with Carl, because he's so darn fast, manage the car to the end. Get him to the finish. I think he did that today, guys.
He did indeed. And of course, Jack Roush's headquarters were in Livonia, Michigan. That's where he built
Awesome job, guys. It means a lot to win here. Thank you so much.
Listen to this crowd. That would be the 18th NASCAR victory for Jack Roush, by the way, here. 10 in Cup, 4 in the NASCAR Truck Series, and now the 4th time he has won in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. You know what's coming next, and so does this crowd here. Here we go. The signature somersault for Carl Edwards.
Helmet and all.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Launch device had it all.
He'll get that helmet off, and he will be able to talk with us about the great run today for Carl Edwards. He led 5 times for 71 laps to pick up win number 3. Back with Victory Lane and Carl in a moment. Our coverage of the Carfax 250 NASCAR Nationwide Series race at Michigan has been brought to you by Carfax. The NASCAR Nationwide Series event is history, and Carl Edwards is climbing out in victory lane, picking up his 3rd win in 2008. Jamie.
And happy birthday to Carl Edwards, who turned 29 yesterday. So, Carl, this is the car you guys came here, and you said it's the dreaded Kentucky car. You finished 20th. What do you think about it now?
Oh, I'm just so happy that we won this thing. We've been close here before, you know, and yeah, it's just unbelievable. I can't thank Ford Motor Company enough. I mean, to be here in Ford's backyard, you know, Ford's making a comeback. I'm glad to be a part of it. Planters peanuts. I've eaten a lot of peanuts. I never thought I'd have one, you know, on the front of my race car, but just everybody at Scott's and Save a Lot and my guys. They built this body and this engine. They've been doing a lot of work, and it really paid off. And all the fans for coming out here today. It's cool to see a big crowd.
Your new crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer. It's been 6 races together now, Carl. He's the one that decided to bring this car. 6 races, 3 wins. What has been the main difference?
I guess, you know, Drew and all the guys just working together. You know, PK and I had so much success together, and then we made this change, and Matt Kenseth and I talked about it when it first happened. He said, you know, Carl, sometimes just change makes a difference, and I feel like that's what we've got here. Everybody's doing a great job. Man, just a great day. It's awesome to win this thing. We've got a great car for tomorrow, too, so it should be a lot of fun.
All right, Carl Edwards, try something new. He does a backflip with the helmet on. Can't spot the landing. Doc.
And with Carl Edwards' win here today and Clint Bowyer's finish in 10th position, the points lead is the smallest it has been since Charlotte, Lowe's Motor Speedway back in May. There's the margin. Clint Bowyer and Carl Edwards. Edwards gains a spot. Mike Bliss up 2 spots in the points. Ruderman with the impact and the contact back a spot. Marcus Ambrose hanging in the top 10. Back in a moment.
In Pennsylvania, with 2 races to go until the NHRA starts their countdown to the championship, the pressure is on. Tony Schumacher has clinched the #1 position in Top Fuel already, but this weekend he looks for a 51st Top Fuel win. Only Joe Amato has more.
The Carfax 250 in Michigan is history. The NASCAR Nationwide Series cars have run for 250 miles, and the best car today was the 60 of Carl Edwards in Victory Lane. But you know what, Shannon? That Toyota of Brian Vickers was no slouch either.
Yeah, down here with Brian Vickers, great run for this team. At times it looked like you were going to win this race. I listened in on the radio and you said if we could just get a caution. If a caution would have come out, could you have caught Carl?
If the caution would have come out about 300 yards sooner, we would have had a chance. I mean, we were running him down there at the end. You know, Carl had a better car on the short run. With new tires, and we're all running wide open on the bottom, you know, obviously the Ford not having the extra restrictor plate that was put on the Toyotas was a big advantage, you know, big advantage. As the tires wore out longer in a run, you know, our car was handling really well, especially when we can get up to the top groove and get it wound up. Really felt like we had something for them, but just ran out of time and laps.
All right, Dave.
Well, Shannon, with Greg Biffle, who finished 5th today, but guys were commenting when the piece of plastic got on the front of Greg's car, how that might even help him. Apparently it did, because when it came off, your car went the wrong way.
Yeah, it did. I tell you, when it got on the front of that, my Ford Fusion City Financial car, the thing really picked up some speed. But Eddie said, look at your temperatures, look like you have debris on the grill. And it was 250, but it maintained, and we drove all the way to 2nd, was, you know, probably wasn't going to catch Carl. But then it blew off and, you know, ended up 5th. So it was kind of nice to have that little bit of downforce right there at the end.
And Greg, you ran well last year. You run well again this year. If they change the car on you now, are you still going to run well here at Michigan?
I certainly hope so. They changed the Cup car, and we still run well. So just hopefully top 5 tomorrow in the Sprint Cup car.
All right, thanks, Greg. Let's go to Mike.
And Dave, talk about making the most out of what you have. Mark Martin really wrestled with his car most of the early stages of this race, but brought it home inside the top 5. What was it like today for you?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the fans for supporting GoDaddy.com, and especially Dale Jr. and Rick Hendrick for letting me drive this stuff. We were off pretty bad at the beginning of the race, but the team did a great job on the pit stops, getting the car better. We had to go to the tail end of the longest line after one of the stops, but the car was spectacular at the end, and we were just getting in a position to really go racing, and got to have some fun there toward the end. It was a great run. I'd like to have been able to contend for a win, but we were a little short.
It definitely did look like that car came to life in the last 25 laps or so. If this race went a little bit longer, did you have something for the leaders?
Not Carl. I don't know. I mean, Carl was gone, but you know, the other couple of guys there in front of us, our car was getting better. We had slipped by Tony, and he slipped back by us, and we were getting where we could race Tony pretty good and race Brian pretty good. So, you know, the car was really good. It was a lot of fun. We'll try to win one in Kansas.
Doc, to tell you how far Mark came today, at one point early in this race, they described the car as a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of being tight.
Wow, and he still drove that car all the way back. Thanks, Mike, to get a 4th place finish. Well, one of the key moments in the race that could impact the points race as the season winds down happened on lap 91. Now watch the 2-car, points leader Clint Boyer and the 99 of David Ruderman. They were running 4th and 5th respectively at the time.
Yeah, they get together right here, and you heard Clint say that he thought they didn't have quite enough room. He maybe could have given the 99 could have given him some more room, but really this kind of looks like Clint's fault to me.
Well, yeah, and it probably ended up hurting Clint, too. I would say that he probably knocked a fender in there, and it obviously hurt David Ruderman a lot more. But, you know, David was coming off on his line, and it looked like Clint got a little bit loose. But, you know, again, those things are going to happen when you race here at the speeds they're racing.
Mike Massaro has caught up with Clint Boyer.
And an interesting day for the point leader, Clint Boyer. He put some distance between himself and Brad Keselowski, but lost a little bit of ground to Carl Edwards. How would you assess the afternoon?
Not very good. We just didn't race very smart today, but man, I don't know. I got my car tore up there. You know, Ruderman and I have always got along pretty good. I don't know what happened there. I mean, he was, you know, I don't know if he thought that I didn't know I was there and his spotter shocked him or something. He never really moved up, and when you're underneath somebody like that, you're trying to stay off of him. You're tight, and you know, it's just too bad a deal. It tore both of our cars up, and you know, unfortunate for everybody.
His take, in his words, he didn't feel like you gave him enough room. I mean, what was your view of things there?
Well, I mean, when you're, like I say, when you're underneath somebody, you know, you can't just turn. You know, this track you got to use as much as you can, and for whatever reason, you know, I guarantee you somebody could have put a 3 wide on the outside of him right there, but you know, we need to look at the tape there and figure out why he wasn't up on the racetrack.
Kind of a rough day for Clint Boyer, but he still walks away with a 113-point lead.
I'm sure when both those drivers look back, Mike, they're going to say, well, you know what, I see it a little bit differently now that I've seen the big picture maybe with that contact. But obviously it impacts, Boyer ended up finishing back in 10th position, the 99 car. Not a good day for David Ruderman, who was probably going to have a top 5 finish. Final thoughts on what we saw today and the outcome of this one?
I think this is the first time that we've seen the impact of that smaller taper spacer for the Toyotas. I think if that hadn't been in place, you might have seen a little different result here today. But Carl Edwards still had a great race car, and the Toyotas came up just a little bit short.
Yeah, they did come up just a little bit short. They had good cars, as you heard them say, on the longer runs, but they felt like that it was a disadvantage on the fresher tires. But Carl Edwards did a terrific job. He did exactly what he had to do to get himself in this points battle, and now we have at least a 3-car and 3-driver battle for this championship.
Yeah, give a call to Kelly Byers, finishing in the top 10, 9th spot overall. Brad Keselowski 11th. Marcus Ambrose coming off that win last week, finishes in 12th. Dario Franchitti, a top 15 finish. And how about Jason Keller, the 11 team, trying to race today with a very, very heavy heart after losing their longtime car chief to a battle with leukemia. They were notified yesterday morning. None of those guys wanted to be here, but they sucked it up and they knew that's exactly what Big Guy would have wanted. And they raced their car home to a top 20 finish. We'll wrap it up when we come back.
Coming up next on ESPN2, the NHRA Toyo Tires Nationals qualifying. The NHRA drag racing from Reading, Pennsylvania. Tomorrow morning, NASCAR Now gets you ready for the Sprint Cup race here in Michigan, and our coverage of the same starts with NASCAR Countdown at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. Then the NHRA Finals from Reading tomorrow night, 10 Eastern, and the late night wrap-up of the Michigan race on NASCAR Now, 1 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday morning on ESPN2. Just a minute ago, our Shannon Spake caught up with today's third-place finisher, Tony Stewart.
Well, down here was Tony Stewart, talking to Mark Martin right now, as you can see, guys. But Tony Stewart, what a great season for you guys in this 20 car, 5 wins. How bittersweet is this moment right now?
Well, they're not done yet. I mean, they got the rest of the year here, so I got a feeling this record that they've set is and broke is going to keep growing here. But I just got us off a little bit today, got us a little bit too tight in the center. But just Dave Rogers and all these guys on this Old Spice team, they've done such a great job, and they're in a record-setting year, and it's just been an honor to drive the car for them and a lot of fun.
Now, at the end of the race, Dave Rogers radioed into you and said that this is the most fun he's had across the board being your crew chief. What does that mean?
Well, it's a huge compliment, a huge honor. Dave and I go back a long way because of the Cup Series, and he was my engineer there, and he got the opportunity he deserved over here, and he has made the most of it. I mean, you couldn't ask for a guy that does such a good job of keeping you pumped up all race long, and he's having one of those dream seasons like Kyle's having. So just really proud of him and his guys, and Steve D'Souza and the whole entire nationwide program at Joe Gibbs Racing. They've done an awesome job, not only with the 20 car but with the 18. So these guys got awesome stuff to look forward to the rest of the year.
All right, it was not a victory for the 20 car today, but he's got one more shot tomorrow.
Third place in Tony Stewart's final ride in that Nationwide Series 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Not bad. 5 wins on the season in 9 tries and 8 top 10 finishes in that total. And so some final thoughts on the day. Mine would be the winning pass was made on pit road.
I'll tell you what, it really was. I mean, but that pass he made on pit road, we talk it in the sport all the time about downforce, getting clean air to your car. I mean, that was big for Carl Edwards to get out of there, get that clean air, and get gone. But I'll tell you one thing, Brad, that I've had my mind on. Lap 92, Tony Stewart was coming down pit road. A lot of guys were coming down pit road. The caution flag fell.
Yeah.
Saved everybody. I mean, that was very, very close, that one.
Without question. And the big thing for me was watching that Ford, that Roush Fenway Ford today. It made a ton of horsepower, and that was good to see. Carl Edwards got out front. He was smoking them. Also, we saw Jason Leffler and Mike Bliss have solid top 10 finishes today. Congratulations to those guys. This was a super race today.
And so for the Nationwide Series, it's on to Thunder Valley, Bristol Motor Speedway next Friday night.
Big
banging, right? Can't wait for that. And the championship tightening up considerably here in Michigan today. And we turn our our attention to tomorrow's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. Brian Vickers on the pole, Jimmy Johnson on the outside pole. You heard Carl Edwards talk about what a good car he has. He was fast in final practice, and Carl's got to come from 27th starting spot tomorrow. That is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch him try and tear through that field. Our coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race starts with NASCAR Countdown at 1 Eastern Time tomorrow. We hope you'll join us for that. And coming up next, it's the Toyo Tires NHRA Nationals qualifying from Reading, Pennsylvania. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Carl Edwards, your winner today at Michigan. We'll talk to you tomorrow.